my involvement with the IPCC was with the first IPCC report. So let me see if I can get out of here.
Okay, you're talking here.
Right there. Now, as a researcher, my job really is to try to reduce uncertainties, to build credibility of what we're doing. And recently, there was an attack on that kind of credibility building and assurance that people might have that what we do is responsible. So I'd like to talk a little bit today about the ramifications of what has come to be known as ClimateGate. First of all, there were purloined or stolen or leaked emails coming out of the University of East Anglia Climate Research Unit. And these were published, and they definitely suggest that climate data have been withheld and manipulated. Now, these data have been used in the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change assessments previously. Those assessments are being used to, as you can hear today, drive a lot of international policy on greenhouse gas emissions and agreements. And the consequences of taking action or no action regarding climate change are being weighed. That also includes things like geoengineering, policies that we need to know quite accurately what the research is telling us. We have to have confidence in it before we try to do anything in that regard. So we have also heard that legislation is quite likely to allow the United States to participate in all of this international agreement. Calls are being made to explain these email implications and for example, the Environmental Protection Agency to even delay implementing carbon emission standards. So what should be done? Well, this is one of the emails out of 1,000 or so that you can find on this website that I put up here on the board. One of the phrases coming out of this email was, "I'm getting hassled to release Climate Research Unit station temperature data. Don't any of you three tell people that the UK has a Freedom of Information Act." So it's kind of a childish kind of thing, but I'm sure that all of us, at one time or another, have written an email and sent it off to somebody, not paying any attention to what was going on. Nonetheless, this was very upsetting. This email went to, it was from Phil Jones, the now former director of the Climate Research Unit, to Malcolm Hughes at the University of Arizona Tree Ring Lab, Ray Bradley at the University of Massachusetts, and Michael Mann of Penn State University. Another email from the former director, "I've just completed Mike's trick of adding in the real temps to hide the decline." I put trick in, there, highlighting it so that we could discuss that for a moment. Quite often I see something like this in emails or in presentations like I'm giving now. And to us in the research community, it's not a great big deal, but maybe to the public, this implies something else. Let me explain just a little bit about what this might mean. And I'm not trying to get inside anybody's mind here, but it's the way I interpret this. When we are putting together temperature records, accumulating thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of information, and we go back in time, we run out of the instrumented record, and we attempt to put in proxies. Proxies like tree ring information, even counting the rings, the growth rings on mollusk shells or in corals, deep sea sediments or lake sediments. all of these things we attempt to pull together to try to get some idea of what the temperature was at a time when we did not have a thermometer. And much of that tree ring information, for example, is continued through to today. We are still collecting tree ring information, still attempting to put it into the climate record. What often is recognized by those of us putting those records together is that these are very problematic in themselves, exposure of trees and so on. So sometimes we take that out. What I don't like about this is that it implies someone took out some information in order to make this record look a little bit better in their eyes. And that's a no-no. So other people are recognizing this. Oklahoma Senator James Inhofe is quite upset. He wants this investigated further, calling this perhaps showing that our records were contrived and fabricated. Now, one of the ramifications of some of this is that we in the scientific community are taking action ourselves. I mean, the former director is now has been replaced by someone who recognizes how wrong this was. The National Science Foundation, as of January 4, what's today, the 2nd? In 2 more days, any of us sending in a proposal to the National Science Foundation to involve any of my students or any of our postdoctoral researchers, they're going to have to take some training in responsible conduct of research. It'll include an online training program as well as attending some lecture or course. So this is one action that's being taken. The National Institutes of Health is beginning to do something. They will have a similar kind of program. But I want to point out that the American Geophysical Union, we meet 15,000 strong in San Francisco every year, and there are many scientific publications in all areas of geophysical research, has had a data policy, and I'd like to just outline what that is and why the implications of those emails were so wrong. Full and open sharing of data for research and education. This is very important for us. It fosters scientific advances. It has all kinds of benefit if we do that. The AGU data policy applies to data and products acquired, whether it's from public or private funds. Data should be entered into the public domain as soon as possible. Dissemination fees are legitimate. I mean, normally I'm not funded to provide everybody who calls in and asks for data. I'm not funded to do that. So, but I do have an obligation that if I have data that will be helpful for someone to check my research, I have an obligation to release that data. I may give it to you in the form in which I've used it, and don't expect me to go out and reformat it and everything else, but I'm obligated to provide that data. There are times when there may be some restrictions involved, but I can tell you this, in all of my career, I have never had that opportunity come up where I can't release data. And I think that most of my colleagues are in the same category. The AGU considers all of these data a world heritage. They should be protected.